Got it.
Sorry about that. I forgot to mention, everyone, we are planning on recording this, so as long as everyone's all right with that, just stay where you are.
Okay. Well, the school itself didn't start until, I think it was early 1800s when they began to get their slavery, they started the schools on their own. I believe it was around 1870. I'm not exactly sure of the date. I don't have my book in front of me. And I say that only because I did this at least this thing is maybe 25 years old. About the picture was just started in the 70s with just one large room, but it stayed like that until something significant happened for African Americans in Baltimore County, the students. It was a young girl from a community just below here called Arbutus. The kids in the area, of course, all went to Catonsville School, especially when it became high school. The county said that if a child completes the 7th grade, I believe, and the report card says promoted to the 8th grade, then that child can go to the white high school and apply for tuition to go to Baltimore City for its education. And all that was fine, but to my mind, it really should be considered historic on its own because there was this girl, her name was Margaret Williams, who completed the 8th grade down in Arbutus, where they had a small African-American school just off of, I can't think of the street that it was on, but it's still there and it's been converted to a home now. But anyhow, she attended that school. And when she finished, she went and took the test. And Margaret failed the test. Oh, she failed it miserably. But she went back to school another year and retook the test again. And she failed again. She failed again. And her father got extremely upset about it. And her father hired a man who to represent him, getting his daughter to go to the White High School. I mean, he was paying taxes. He was born there. And anyhow, this person truly tried to help her, and it just didn't work. It just didn't work. And in 1939, for some unknown reason, Baltimore County put the high school curriculum in 3 schools. One was Banneker. The second was Bragg down in Sparrows Point. And the third was up in East Towson. Those 3 schools had the curriculum. And now, then African-Americans didn't have to worry about having to go to Baltimore to get their full education, which they did here. And the building itself, of course, now is gone after school segregation was, free. And the significance behind that is the fact that that lawyer who Joshua Williams hired to get his daughter in school was Thurgood Marshall. Thurgood Marshall, really? He got his first introduction to school integration right there in not in Banneker, in Baltimore County. And of course, it would have eventually come, but it would be been years before. And nobody knows exactly why. And we know that Thurgood had left, and we know I have copies of everything about this. And one of these days, I hope to put on a live story with children talking about it, because I was blessed to been able to interview Margaret. And that really taught me, don't take what people say about people that don't have their correct memory, like what I'm suffering with there, because I was really surprised. I worried the devil out of her sister, but she eventually let me interview Margaret. And as I sat beside her, and true, she started off not really know about what she mentioned school. I mean, she really got into it. She really got into it. And I was surprised. I was so glad I had my tape recorder with me, because all she talked about was this extremely handsome man talking in court. And I had the whole thing from in court where Thurgood was questioned, and the lawyers, answered this question. I got enough for the whole thing, and Margaret was saying how this handsome man, it just was just wonderful hearing him, and of course he failed. He failed only because, now I'm not a lawyer and all, I don't know why, but it had something to do with the fact that the county specifically said something about Black students only going so far. I got a feeling all of that would come about why they put the curriculum into this little school. So, and of course, that community has been growing ever since. Okay, Jimmy, you want me to have the next one, please? Next slide. I think I may be, okay. Now, I do not know exactly where this picture came from, but it was someone in Catonsville for sure, because the community actually looked like this. What you're looking at now, I do believe, is a Black family coming out of slavery and renting the house in front of them as their home. Because I found most of the slaves stayed in the Catonsville area. I found most of them did. Other communities, quite a few, as soon as they got their freedom, they went in other communities. But I just wanted to share a picture of what Winter's Lane probably looked like when it got near the end of slavery. Next. And of course, like all other those Black communities, every one of them, except one community, had its own church. And the church go back into slavery, because I found that, like here in Catonsville, when slaves were freed or earned their way out of slavery, then that's when most of them didn't leave. Where could they go? They knew the master of the place. They knew the work and all. They just stayed and worked for money. And this I found throughout a couple of blocks in the Winters Lane community, not all of them. One of them was, it ended just beyond Route 40 on one side, and on the other side, which is Frederick Road. Frederick Road is, or was, it may still be, the national road. And that's what guided people to the south, or certain areas, in their movements. And believe it or not, during slavery, on the national road was a
You got muted somehow there. There you go.
let me watch this thing. There was a black man with his family that had he had what was that business he had? Was it horses or shoes or something? He had a really good business right on facing Frederick Road, and he was able to buy most of the land behind him where he lived and other free African Americans. Remus Adams was his name. He had two sons that were aged enough to go into business on their own. And one of the sons, when his father felt he was ready to go out on his own, he went to Canada. It was said that he did not like to work under the conditions of slavery. Not that he was slave, but to see his people in the slave. He went to Canada. Remus stayed there. As a matter of fact, I have much information on Remus Adams, who stayed in Catonsville when he got, he was already free, but I think he took over his father's business. I think that's why he stayed. And they were very successful, I understand. They eventually, I don't recall a reason or how long they stayed, but it was many years. And I know they came into Catonsville itself to reside because he had helped so many trying primarily to get education in for the kids. He was one of them that sponsored that and was quite successful. And I have some of his brothers and sisters who, not brothers, they were like second or third cousins that were still living on Winters Lane that I interviewed, and they gave me a good impression on that. But it wasn't until when I take my break, I'm gonna get my book, because I believe it was in 1870 when Baltimore County decided to put free public education in schools, like those 40 churches. I think if they had the support and all of that, they did put free public education in 1870. It began, of course, Catonsville, I believe Catonsville, East Houston, and Bragg were the center of all of it until everything smoothed out, where the places would be, classes would be held. And that was one of the basic requirements. The community have to find a place to have school. And of course, the county, and the county, of course, paid the teachers. And they all of them grew up from that. And I don't believe, whoops. But that's enough on it. I tell you what I missed when I was doing my research. The basic church is right in front of you. The little white church to the right, that was the home of the principal. And the principal had to live in, I forget the name of whatever it's called, but I found in my research that after slavery, a lot of churches decided for sure that the principal would stay there. The principals, a lot of them wanted to leave. And I found over the years that many people say because there was no pastor living in the community to advocate for them for whatever the reason, that was a big miss in our history, a big miss, because a lot of them no longer live in principals, the preachers' quarters. And then as Winter's Lane really grew fast around, I believe it was around 1910, maybe a little bit earlier. The men of the community, it was a he's the second house to the left from the church. I just can't think of his name. He decided to create an organization. The name is going to come to me in a minute, and convinced the Black men and women to put their nickels and quarters and dollars into this organization. Eventually, I know this is when it got around 1910. They got smart. They built for entertainment. They built a place called Greenwood Electric Park. And Jimmy, I do not know how to share the picture. I didn't put it up. I could not share the screen. I could not figure that out. No, that's where Banneker. I think can you go back? I think I showed that before. Okay, anyhow, it will come. No, so it will come up to us later to show you this. And the reason I say they were really smart about it because, I'm going to say 99% of the people that I interviewed in the Winters Lane area, they all were paying rent. And if you notice on their census records and other records that maintain counts, there you see that is around that time when they begin to own their house, buy their homes, and don't run long mortgages. And it gave people like my wife, Shirley, who is deceased, her grandfather, who could not read or write, went up to Oella and had 3 houses built for his children right in the front of Banneker. We still have one of his grandsons still live in the house, but only one is left. They began to really make money and invest in things. Plus, so many people in the interview said, oh my goodness, we remember that when they changed it, first it had a religious theme to it. And it was really mothers and children. And then they changed it to families and the public. And then all around the Winters Lane community, including Greenwood Electric Park, up pops the places for men. And they became very popular. Money was made from them. People would say that the blacks, there were so many of them, they couldn't get them all parking areas, and they had to go all the way up to where the terminal was for the streetcar, park their cars there, and the streetcars came down to pick them up when it's finished and take them up to their cars or some kind of way like that. but it became extremely, extremely popular. Let's go to the next slide. And this are the 3 homes owned by Mr. Washington, Mr. William Washington. This one, I believe this is the one that, can you see my pointer?
No.
No, okay. Anyhow, those 3, one of them burned down. Now they are exactly directly in front of a Benjamin Banner home. Next slide. And this one, I'm going to take a breather myself. I had planned for one of my pretty good board members who also does research. And I'm so glad to have her with us, and I hope she's with us now, but she is a member of this church. I have the history, but I would like her to share with you. Betty, are you there? Oh my, Betty. Oh, I guess she didn't make it. I just come from my board meeting and we ran so late. I guess she figured she can't do 2 at one time, I guess. All right, so anyhow, this church is the oldest still active African-American church in Baltimore County. John McGreen, God bless his soul, who was really a professional historian. He had done, if it wasn't for, no, he had done extensive on this research on his church, Mount Gilboa AME Church. He said in part of his research, this church has been around so long that it was once called Africa. And they were further down to your left going towards Ellicott City. That was very close to the homes down there. And at one time, they don't know if it was through segregation or what, but the church burned down. And they said that was around 1775 or earlier, but no written notes on it. So they rebuilt it in the area it is now, which is right on the corner of OL Avenue and West something. Now this is a true, he's on the National Register of Historic Places, the structure. And we have at least one other that I can put my mind to is a church from Bear Hills, which is located in Towson, way out on the road. You can't even get a bus in there. I'd taken maybe two buses in there, and it was so hard to get the authorization, and they said they hadn't done much on the grounds around it, and I knew people were going to read the headstones and all. And what fascinated me about it, their homes for this church up in Bear Hills, which was walking distance where I was born. That's way down on Falls Road. But this is, and they had a smaller church on the grounds where they live. It was very small, never seen it. They only have a few pictures. They couldn't find one for me, but they have the grave sites. They did not move a lot of the grave sites. Why, I don't know, but they have 2 of them. And of course, like I said, we do have only one, and I don't know why I can't think of the name. It's just not there. We have a church up near Putty Hill. Little church has been around since slavery. Very little. Honestly, you couldn't get no more people. My office is bigger than the church. It's very historic. It's definitely historic. They have a small cemetery there, but we have them all over the place. And do you know, I am still getting calls from the community that know what I and my museum staff have been doing. They still call me and tell me about churches that had Black slaves graveyards behind the church. And I remember some of the churches that they named, other people that I interviewed, they never mentioned it. Even the church, when I inquired in the church. Some churches don't keep records, most of them do. But I imagine that they were just not there long enough to know the real history of them. And I am still researching. But it's just amazing where our history, but that was one of my main focus on what I wanted to do after a 20-year career in the military. And I have been to Korea 5 times. In 20 years in the civil service, that I should stick with what it is that I want to do. And that is find the history of African-American life in the communities that I lived in. And of course, once in the city, when I spent most of my younger years on Stricker Street in Hyde. That's where I was born, Sandtown. And that the families in those that I knew well. I wanted to write a little history about them, but I believe that is out now. And I wanted to write so young men and women can see 90 years ago what a young boy or girl would have to face in school. And I am one of them that want to put it in writing. But believe me, I was like most of the families there. I had a mother, I had a father, I had 2 sisters and 1 brother. I never knew my father, me and my sister Peggy. We didn't see him until we could understand that he should have been there with his family taken care of. Because I'll tell you, if it wasn't for the church, people like us, and I could know many of them in my immediate area, same way. City didn't give you anything. You were on your own on everything. I didn't like school. I did not go to school much. Hated school because I knew there wasn't nothing for me to do. But if you're from my area, you know what I mean. But to go up on White Lock Street and work in the way they sell groceries, and all you did was deliver them to the white families in that area in Baltimore. I didn't want to do that. I would go out to Druid Hill Park and lay out in the grass and dream about things. So when I got of age, no, let me mention one other name. You might ask your grandparents if they remember. There was a lady whose job was people like me that didn't go to school or just got caught. When we were caught, we went, she took us down to the Northwest Police Station and gathered information on us. And our threat was the boys would go to Cheltenham. When she said that, oh my God, no, because I know see boys when they come back, they fight for their life. They are criminals when they come back. Terrible. And she didn't care about you. I don't know, that was something about me that was really different. I love to type. Oh my goodness, I'm the best typist in the world. And my teachers used to say, Lewis, no girl in the class can beat you on typing, but I have to fail you because you don't know how to do the basic A, S, D, F. You know how you go across. Man, I ain't had no time to figure that out. I figured out how to speed type. That's why it took me 20 years to do it, to write them 13 books. But when I put my mind on it, I really kept going. But these things are what got me out of trouble. And when I went in the Army, and all these people had volunteered, like myself, with the Maryland National Guard. And we went outside when we were activated for the war. And the colonel said, "Who can type?" And I put my hand up, look around, all them. I was the only one. From that day on until 1990, when did I retire? 1990 something. I have worked my way using my brains and my fingers, honestly. Embassy duty I was on. Army headquarters duty, because I was the only one they could find with a true background, a security background. Some of the highest that you could have. All of this, my whole 20 years. And that's why I think, like, all of this, I've done most of this on my own. Of course, I had Mr. Linwood Johnson. He was really a wonderful mentor for me, but he has been ill all the while. And unfortunately, he is still out of things. But anyhow, this is where all this coming from for my writing this book. And this here, even though that beautiful church is sitting there, right across the street from it, there was another man who ancestors were freed from slavery in 1870. No, and I said 1850. It's in the book. And that family is still there, but they tried to take their property. Let me give you an idea when I say take their property. If there's a picture of this long walkway beside the regular road to get there, on this little walking path, Howard County put it over the graves of the people that lived in that building. When I interviewed the young lady that was there, she said she was in trouble, and sure enough, before I got the whole thing done, she was gone and the house was gone. I think that's terrible, but our people are not going to lose, not Mel Gilboa. We're not going to lose any of ours. We're ready to fight. Next. And these are some of my relatives. This lady here was my father's first cousin, Virginia White. She was like Betty is. She was the historian of the Black church out there. And I see I don't have the name of it. Is the see, I put myself in, but I can't even remember their name. But there's a Black church and a Black community in Catonsville. And thanks to her, and that's her daughter in the middle, her name is Virginia. She's still in the house. And Clifford, they're still there. And her father he took care of horses, Clydesdale. That's what and my father was doing the same thing, but I didn't know his whole history. Next. And there's not many Blacks in Catonsville. For a few. See if I can do this. No, I thought that would move it. Yeah, this is another relative. I didn't know Joseph, but I most certainly knew his son Joseph. And they all live in Green Spring Valley. And when Jr. was born, someone in our family, what's the lady's name who the talk was, who became the city school superintendent and didn't have a doctorate degree? Alice Penderhughes, that's her name. That's his cousin. And everybody thinks she's from Baltimore City, but no, she's one of the products of Baltimore County. And I did get to see her, but I was never able to see her long enough to interview her. Oh, I really was, she just didn't like to talk. I was trying to find someone, like I do in every one of my researches, is to find people that remember their grandparents or great-grandparents, even if they were there with a child, to seek information about what it was like to live under slavery. And most would not talk about it. And I did not push too many because I found a couple of them. Oh, and what was, she came out of Bear Hills, and her name was Levere. And no, she didn't come out of there. She came out of, way up north. That's right. The Mount Zion is a church. Anyhow, she was always with her two daughters. She was 105, I believe. Just as pretty as a picture. Her face was nice and clear. She walked pretty good. And she was the only one that really would talk about slavery. And where she lived up in the church is Mount Zion, and it's way up north. I can't think of it. Anyhow, when I was up there a really long time because everybody was so far from each other. Most of them were in a small, kind of compact community, most of the blacks back doing then. And we were out walking and talking, and she said, come here, I want to show you something. We walked over this hill, and sure enough, there is a fully completed slave quarters still there. And I was unable to get hold of the people to talk with them because I wanted to take some pictures. And I never did make it. There were some people that were in the school. They did have a school there. I couldn't find them, except for Mr. Levere's family, of course. They were the only ones, but I did get some. But it was just too far up. But Joseph the Jr., he just died not too long ago. That was a shame. They say he could sing. Oh my goodness, religious songs was his favorite. Now, what is it saying now?
One sec. Okay, if you insist.
What do I
I could while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain. And my head I'd be scratching while my thoughts were busy hatching if I only had a... Hey, wait a second.
Jamie, is this you?
No?
No, it's not me either. I do have a little thing under my computer. Wait a minute. There we go. But in any case, he was a very interesting person. One of his parents was in Civil War. Okay, you can give me the next one, Jamie. All right, Charles Woodland. This is the man who got the men in Catonsville a pool of resources, and he formed the Catonsville Cooperative Association. And it was there through his son who gave me the information when I interviewed him. And I believe his wife was, no, his wife, it was just his son. Maybe it was his sister. But the Catonsville Cooperative Association you asked him questions, Jimmy?
Just for later. Don't worry about it now.
Oh, okay. But this gentleman, he got a lot of them talking, quite a few. I have seen and held the actual roster or whatever it is they were writing, but I actually had that. It showed Shirley's grandfather had quite a little bit in there, and I was able to talk with some of the men who, why did they join that and so forth. But he really started the progression of African Americans in the Winters Lane community. Actually, he took it from anybody, but I think I still got my copy of that, come to think of it. Okay, I'll take the next one. This is Greenwood Electric Park. I knew I had that. Yeah, I figured around 1910. But this was primarily for religious activities, and you can see it's very large. And there was a white man that gave me that picture. He said, well, I forgot what something about it. They finally wised up or something to use their own resources. But I tell you, this was a beautiful drawing. Next. And this is the young lady I was talking about, Margaret Williams, who I'll let you read it first. Well, you can, if you are interested in any kind of way, I'm really hoping that I can put a program together with high school students running how the man run the course. I have interviews from people up North County who remember Mr. Marshall or his people coming through to gather the information that he thinks he needs. I have all of it. I have the interviews of everyone. Of course, Margaret and the young lady was in class with us. She only had 3 in the class, 2 girls and a boy. Lucille Scott is the other young lady. She and Margaret Williams were in the same class. I can't think of the boy's name. But I was unable to get to interview the boy. I would have loved to interview him. I could not track him down. Believe me, people, going around gathering this information, I tell you, that was a job. That was really, truly a job. But people do believe in finding their history. They really do. I don't know why retired men and women together after they retire, get up and don't look at the television and go and start doing your own family. That's what I did. I was doing my own family. And of course, that led to, something that I can feel I've done something with my life. But that's Margaret Williams. And I was more interested in that car. The girl said that was her father's car. And he favored Margaret. It was pretty interesting. Okay, we'll take the next one. Oh, that's Adrian. Adrian. She really asked me would I go, and then she knew it was going to be a good year and a half, with the group that had the contract to write 350th anniversary of Baltimore County. I'm still friends with quite a few of those people, especially those that were educators. That was interesting. Next. And this is this is the current home of the Oblate Sisters. And if there's anyone out there that don't know who the Oblates are, to their religious organization that have never been enslaved, and their goal always has been to help Blacks out of slavery, and did what they could. And they ended up in Baltimore, and oh goodness, it was, it's right here, 1820s. And they secured a building, Motherhouse, went very well downtown. Then things really got hot. So they found a place in Arbutus that they bought. Estate that you're looking at, the Manning estate. I got the history of that. And that's where they worked out of. No sooner than they got in there, what do you think happened? They burned the place down to the ground, and they built this new one. And that ended the situation with Margaret Williams, because they took Margaret Williams and educated her. And she mentioned that. And she mentioned that she was so glad that they educated her, I guess, better than going to school. Next slide. Oh, this is the Motherhouse downtown. I've never seen the Motherhouse, and I was Catholic then. But that's just a picture of the Motherhouse. Next. And this is the Motherhouse today. Oh, I hope I didn't say the one we looked at. That was the original one. They had burned that one down, and they built that. They built it. They never had any problems, from what I understand. And I usually take bus tours, and that's one of the other things that has been one of the major things in my life, in my volunteer work, is I'd love to give tours. You'd be surprised at Black people from this Black county that ain't seen much of this Black county, especially up north. As a matter of fact, since north has triggered something in my mind, I think I want to say something about it. When I've never finished a project as I was working my way up north, and I got some help from the archive. People have just been so nice to me. And one of the best one is the one that's sponsoring this program. Anyhow, I wanted to find some actual slaves from Baltimore County who served in the Civil War. And I got some information that I never finished. I ran into a person or two from somewhere else whose grandparents mentioned to them that served in the Civil War that they didn't know what they were going to do when slavery ended. They knew it was going to end soon. And Black people, I mean, we were lucky. They had this law why we couldn't bear arms in the first place. Blacks couldn't have no handled guns, not until 1863. And that's when they began to draft them, or they volunteered, or if they ran away from their masters and joined. And no, they didn't get their slaves back at all. And it said that when they advertised a slave, if the owner attempted to get him back, he had to go to court. And it would say to the person that owned the slave, are you willing to take an oath to the Union? Oath to the Union. I ain't no part of no union. I ain't gonna take no oath. Now, got to be honest, of the many people that said all this about not doing, was only one person who said no. Of course, she never did. She didn't get a slave back. She didn't get $300, which is what they would have given her, the same amount that they give the slave, $300. And you have to give him immediate freedom effective today. And that's what they did. Look, this is 1863. Hey, they have less than 2 years and the whole war be over. So I am sure that some of the white people that I talk with, I got a feeling, they didn't really say this to me, but they said, especially out in the Granite area, man, I know darn well why he let some of his slaves go. They made more money selling the slaves because they knew the war was going to end and they were going to take the slaves anyhow. I mean, to release them anyhow. So why not make the money off of them? And everyone that I've read about got their $300. But they paid them in the same way they paid the freed slave. They gave them $100 when they joined. During the months while they are in service, they will get an additional amount of money to make up the 300, or then I believe it's 200 by then. No, I see 300. I got the actual papers. So it must have been 400 because it's a $300 is what the freed slave got. And what it was, the government was putting that money in freedmen's bank for that freed person when they got out. However, and I don't know why I don't have it with me, but I have copies of every one of those documents that's got the slaves are identified separately, and they have their name, when they joined, where they joined, who was their master. And what did that do? But anyhow, that they got this money. And I do believe that blacks went in fast. I don't believe it was for, I'm gonna fight for my country. I'm gonna fight for this money when I get out in 3 years. Because some people have said to me that this was the only reason I would, one guy said, I paid $15 an acre for my land. That's why there's so many blacks up there now, and why so many blacks have horse farms and large pieces of land that as the economy grew over the years, they could call on this money to start businesses in Baltimore or wherever. starting with this $300. That was a lot of money. And guess what? I see something on this paper that I have from the archives that showed everything about all the slaves from this county. It did it personally for me. And I saw some blank spots at the end where the slave didn't get his money. And why, I wonder, why did the government send the money to the owner in the first place? They were freed the second they raised their hand and took the oath to the county. Or maybe I'm looking at that wrong, but over the years, I have kept this. And I'm going to ask if someone would like to continue looking into this. It's nothing but reading some of these papers. And then they can have, I got several books, especially the one about the Civil War. I have where every owner of a slave, where his home was located, somewhere in the county. Who knows what you can find, but you can put somebody way ahead. Suppose they find that some man put it in a bank or something and gets a lawyer. I wonder how much is $300 times when we've been freed, 150 years, whatever. Anyhow, I was curious. That's the only reason I saved that. Something tell me that I'm wrong. So could you hit the next one? And this is another very old church. This was built during the slavery era. It's been in Towson, oh my goodness. And it's the second oldest church in Towson. It's really not the oldest. There's two really large churches in Towson. One is, oh my Lord. What is it? I'll think of it. But that was interesting over the years when this is now the, oh, she just bought the house. This is the, where the pastor lives. What is that called? Jamie, can you write that down? This is killing me.
The manse?
Huh?
The manse or the parsonage?
It's called a parsonage.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Because it got me so confused. As a matter of fact, I haven't confused the picture anyhow. Yeah, the parsonage. That is not the parsonage you're looking at. That is St. James African Union Methodist Protestant. It's on East Towson, but I'm not really sure. I went there to talk with them, and I met the bishop or whatever the next level in power when they had an open house to get some information. And he was just as surprised as I was. Wait a minute, where's the AUMP church? There's none around this way. I said, I'm sorry, sir. If you feel like going for a ride, I'll take you there. But anyhow, he gave me information that he knew, and obviously he did not know. He really didn't tell me. And I know they went back on the record to see if that was their church. You know, most could be. And it really puts flavor into East Towson. And that bell, what's it called on the top of the roof? It was another white church in East Towson, I believe. They said that they were cooperative. And anyhow, they gave them that bell from their church, I believe. They said that was being demolished or moved. And if you look to the right of it, the little dark building, that's the parsonage. And unfortunately, that wasn't part of the church. That wasn't part of the church. And I think it's been sold already. Next. oh my, this is my favorite picture. To see this beautiful Black woman standing on us. Oh my goodness, I love that picture. But that's her name, and she was from East Towson, and that's all I really want to know is just to picture her because she is so set out and so beautiful as a Black woman. I just love that picture. I show that wherever I can. Two things about East Towson that y'all gonna say I'm crazy. One is maybe about this lady, and the second one, I don't need to tell you when that comes up. So you can hit the next slide. And this used to be a church. I mean, the American Schoolhouse down on School Lane. The usage of it after integration, it just, I know it was bought by civilians. Linwood and I discussed some possibilities of acquiring that. And the gentleman who wanted to participate in one of the festivals that I have thousands and thousands of pictures displayed, he wanted to get his pictures of his church in there and what he was going to do with it. Somehow I don't believe it worked because I haven't seen the change in it, but that is part of it, and it's still on our tour list. Next. And let's see, one thing I found about this church, which is called Edgewood, and all of these churches, all of these old buildings, and I hope community activists out there listening to me, every one of them need to be designated historic to be sure that we never lose our history. Oh, I could just be 50 years old and have a well-written background behind it. And let LPC, I've taken them through a couple of them, no problem. That's what we really need. I'm sorry, I got carried away. But this one across the street was the parsonage, still there. Significant thing about it is they have two grave sites in the front of the house. And I have it in the book. Someone told me who they were. And most of the churches always get some name that's related to something religious or something. In a lot of cases, that's what I hear. And this one was a little bit different. They didn't take any time to name this one. And when they told me why they named it like that, the historian, it's called Edgewood United Methodist Church. It's called Edgewood because it's sitting on the edge of the woods. And that's why they named it Edgewood United Methodist Church. Oh, there's Nancy Goldring. Hey, Nancy, I don't know if you remember me.
Of course I remember you, Mr. Diggs.
Oh, yeah, I'm curious. Okay.
Absolutely.
Give me the name. This lady's family has been just wonderful in sharing their history. The next one. These are the, it's 3. I tell you, I'm off on everything, but those are the headstones. And I think, see, that would be none of my business, but that to me is really historic. If somebody goes in that house, I know it's not owned by the church anymore, and want to remove them, I think I would have to put up that's historic. Especially if you know the history and you share the history of people. But to me, it's just historic. Next. Sandy Bottom. Yeah, I believe this church, yes. Yeah, what celebration was that, Nancy?
That's the old church.
Yes,
Man, that's before
Oh, yeah, I don't know how many times they have done it.
I
but
was
that-
a kid when that church was there.
Yes, and that was there before, they say 1880. That church was there before, or near the end of slavery, because history shows you, at least the history out of Governor Ridgely's home, who owned just about all of, what's the name of it?
You mean Hampton?
Walk where the slave quarters are, down on York Road.
Oh, on York Road. That was Sandy Bottom. This is Mount Olive,
No, this is Sandy Bottom here. but
right?
Governor Ridgely's mansion,
Hampton?
what's it called?
Hampton?
Yes, Hampton Mansion.
Okay, okay.
Hampton Mansion, that's where I got most of it. And my information there came from a retired professor from Goucher, who had the responsibility of documenting the history on it. And he was about in the middle of it. And he said, come on now, stick close to me, get this together. And that's where I got this information from. And that's definitely on our tour list. The mansion, only because African Americans built it. Not like they were the architect, they did the hard work. African Americans did. And then Sandy Bottom, where lots of the slaves lived there. And I don't know when they released that, but when they did, they built homes facing York Road. And I have pictures to show it. But every one of them was not owned by these people. So when commercialism really came through York Road, at least that upper part, all of them went, except one pole that sit there that carries the street name. African Americans had to go, they had the money to buy. But I got a couple, and I definitely got the history. And I must say one thing about that pastor. That pastor, when I went to go through his cemetery and identify everybody in the cemetery, like I have done about, I would say 95% of Black churches in the county, because I know darn well there's some that I just couldn't find or nobody ever talked about, or may have turned white or something, I don't know. But that was a really, the minister, oh, I want to say his name so bad. Oh, his records were impeccable.
You talking about, you mean of who was the different pastors and the history and all?
He's the same pastor that's there now.
You talking about Reverend Penn?
Yeah, Reverend Penn,
Okay.
his father. The records, I went to every church that had a cemetery, and his church is the only one that really, truly had records where
Yes.
you can go back on. Because really, if you just take the names off of the headstone, that's basically what I have been doing, versus going into the office that runs owns it. And I only found two that were really nice to me. One was down in Catonsville. I can't think of the name of the church. Oh, they let me in, and boy, was interested to find who paid for the person's burial, where did they live, what was their relationship. Lots of information that led me into areas that might have taken me another half a year to find. And Reverend Penn was the same way. Really good. Give him credit. Next. Oh, wait, this is this one of your relatives?
I don't know this Alexander Frazier. There was
Okay,
a Frazier family, but I don't know.
Yes, I know he lives right across the street from the church, up a little bit. And it was a family, his family working with me was just like, they were just so courteous in supplying information that somebody may be looking for 100 years from now. And he was just wonderful. I understand he passed not too long ago, but not too long at all, because I wasn't walking well. That's why I didn't go to his funeral. He was very nice. Next. This is the house facing York Road. I have another picture. I hope it shows up. The woman was sitting on the steps. Every one of them they tore down. But it wasn't until commercialism came through. And I believe that was in the 50s, 58. But that was one of them. At least you can see what it was like way back when. Next. Oh, this is Schwartz Avenue. I thought I had more on Schwartz Avenue is right where you enter Baltimore City off of York Road. And its historical significance was the fact that they shared resources from both city and the county. They had a school where both counties paid to keep the school going. The church was from Baltimore City, and y'all read that from Nancy?
That was for,
Oh, she has good knowledge.
yeah, Marlena asked the question and I wanted to respond.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she's very, and one of these days, this book is going to come out from our county about lynching in the community where Miss Goldring was a young boy from just a young boy, 15 years old, and they accused him of lynching a girl, and they end up lynching him. I had the honor of pulling the whatever it was, they covered it not too long ago. But that was in one of the communities that I went through, that I have written about in my book. Oh, I can't even think of the name of the book.
Was that from Since the Beginning?
Huh?
Was that in Since the Beginning?
Yes, since the beginning. No, yes.
Well, I'm thinking because that one was about Towson, and the old jail is in Towson.
Yeah. Yes, that's it. Yeah, since the beginning thing. Oh, goodness, I tell you, I'm getting in bad shape and I'm falling now and I've really hurt myself.
Oh my goodness.
And that scares me. At least I want to make it to my 90th birthday next month.
Oh, congrats.
Oh, thanks, if I get there. But like I said, Schwartz Avenue, what was that lady's name that was keeping track? She was very prominent. I liked her. That lived there. She wrote several things about Schwartz Avenue. Oh, that's okay. Doesn't matter. Next, because I'm doing.
We actually had a question from someone, Mr. Beasley. You said you live next door to Mrs. Barnes. You had a question about Schwartz Avenue?
Yes, that's correct. Just looking for any pictures or any other info you have on Schwartz. I brought your book. Surviving House, whatever. I can't remember the name. And you wrote me a picture of my grandmother was in there. When I showed it to my mother, she started crying because she never saw the picture. So just wondering if you had any other pictures or any info on Schwartz Avenue.
I probably do, but do you have my email address?
No, I don't. Not anymore.
Well, hold on before this, and I'll give you my email
Okay.
address.
Thank you.
See if I'm pretty sure I do. I use very few of the pictures that I collect, for different things. This is another Schwartz Avenue. But it's only what, about 2-3 blocks, and the one little schoolhouse sitting on the left.
Mhm.
But it's still, that's our history.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Next. And this one, what was his name? I just talked to him not long ago. But this community, Bond Avenue and Piney Road, which is, I guess, 6-7 miles up, was it 102 or Ricerstown Road becomes another one. They have been together since at least long before Bond Avenue came in, and they were coexisting, helping each other religiously, going on tours and sharing things. And they were attending Ricerstown United Methodist Church, the white church that's at the end of Bond Avenue. During slavery, they had a special seating for them, and it's I guess it was sitting in certain places, I don't know, but it's on the books that they have, this white church have been part of this other church. And this one was something significant. I forgot it. Next. Oh, these two young men. Yeah. It was the one of them was a carpenter. Here it is, John. And he built many of the homes in the Ricerstown area. And I remember on my family, there was a carpenter, but he couldn't build in there. If you look at, and I hope I got a picture of him, of John Thomas, you think he was white. And most of his family. Does it have anything to do with it? I don't know. It just struck me. And when something strikes a researcher, they always mark it down. And if I don't mark things down, I sure in heck will forget them. Anyhow, that's your grandchildren in the car. Next. And these are the Buffalo Soldiers. And of course, everybody knows one of them. Does anybody, Augustus Wally, does anyone know, can point him out? You don't have to do it, just tell me, can you point him out? I'm surprised. Well, look at the top of the last row on the right-hand side, the last man on the right with a hat on, don't look like a military hat. And next to him, you see the man with his hat cocked.
Yeah.
That's Augustus Wally. He was a very handsome man. He was a fighter to the end. This man was nominated for the Congressional Medal of Honor at least twice. I believe was in the Philippines. And of course, the one that he actually acquired by saving this white officer during one of those Indian wars. And he was really his great niece or great niece, I'm not sure what she is, but these people, when they come from the county, they stay there for generations. Anyhow, she didn't know him, but she heard a member of the family talking about him, quite a few people talking about Augustus Wally. Now, I lived on the same street that he lived on when he got out of the service, which was Edding Street. right at North Avenue. I wish I knew which house he lived in. I would have put that down. But anyhow, that's Augustus Wally. Next. This is my great-great-great-grandfather, John Eli Diggs. I have followed them very closely. I still ain't got half of, but anyhow, my great aunt said to me, she's gone now, but I did interview her. She had the picture. She said, my grandfather would not let anybody take his picture unless he was dressed, because he ain't got two knuckles to rub against each other. And that was a very word that he liked to look good. And the telltale for me was his mustache. All of them got a mustache like him, unless they cut it back. But they all got that Diggs look with that. They're very interesting part of history. And they talk more about Barnes Avenue in the book than Piney Grove. But he was mine, and I'm gonna get some kind of good picture made of him. So I can't go no further back, not doing this effort. Next. And that is the house that he lived in. That is his house. And as you read the information beside it, where it says church was built around 1847, the owner of his black slaves, me included, he did help them out. And I don't know how you can help out somebody you don't even consider human. But anyhow, he had Clydesdale horses, and John McGreen gathered information about it. Those men took his goods and took them into Baltimore to sell. That's all they would do, go up and forwards from Baltimore with his Mr. Diggs, D-I-G-G-E-S. And anyhow, the family liked him. And I guess when they decided what last name are they going to carry, and they all agreed on Diggs without the E. And the aunt said they wanted to have something to show that it was, that they made up and had nobody for them. And they showed me the contract where he signed for the church that was built. And John McGreen said, in that era, I forgot what he said, something about not putting black-owned places or something like that. I don't remember. So let's just forget that. I'm really struggling to say what I'm saying, but that was his house. Next. Now this one is in Halethorpe. Of course, we're lucky we have one of the people that live in Halethorpe that's part of our organization, and that's very helpful. Trying to track information there. But we got this picture that you could see that was on the east side of the Beltway. Or it wasn't the Beltway then, it was whatever the name of the road. And you could see this building, and they said that was the schoolhouse. I don't know, but this one here does not carry the structure image like the school that's there. No, nothing at all like that, which I'm sure it means that they just moved the building probably at a time when they were given out, when they were given the public funds maybe to move the building. But we do have at least one person that can share their history. Next. And these are two boys. I was in Korea with the younger brother on the right, Donald Hawkins. And we were there same time. We actually knew people. I stayed in that area a long time. Just it was one that was difficult to get the history on. And this is the one church, the one community that doesn't have a church. And the reason being that they're so close to Baltimore, they ride the bus to church. And on the other side of Howard County is a church. So the people that I talked with, their feeling was that people just didn't want another church. Next. That's their building. And you can clearly see that is not nothing at all like that other building. The ones that wanted to be saved, they moved them, but they tried to keep them in the same condition when the county did move them. But now that's been a community center for a while. And we do have someone on the board who really knows the history behind this. And the bus goes right by. It's on, I can't think of the name of the street, but it goes right by. And there were several entrepreneurs that were in that county, in that community. Next. And these relay is not one of the Baltimore County designated African-American historic community. And I don't know why. I will make a recommendation to the, I don't know to whom I should make it to, but at a minimum, I'll make it to our county executive of communities I've run across. I really feel that have been overlooked in being designated historic based on the resources that I have seen. And this is one of them. This one here, the family, Ms. Williams was still alive when I interviewed them. And she recalls her parents, grandparents, whatever degree they were, that when significant people, African-Americans primarily, she said, well, something like that, when they came into Baltimore, they were told to go to her house. I don't know if that was just the part of the logistics to get people to a certain point. I don't know, but I think they talk more about religious things than any, and they stop almost right on the tracks. So I decided to put them into the books. Next. These are lived when they were children. And also, while they're there, if you walk straight up that, no, you got to go around to the right, and then you come out, that's Rolling Road going over the bridge. But a little further up was a white woman that they contacted one of the people that was working with me out of the Catonsville library. And she said, I have a tunnel under my house. So, well, I can't figure her name. Sure enough, we went around there. There was this tunnel. I went in it almost. And I said, well, what do you know about this tunnel? Did you buy this house with a tunnel? Hey, I don't know, something different about that house as to why they got it. Because the people that I interviewed said that was a route to Underground Railroad. And you know that was not true. It only went down to the corner. And on the corner is where all of the water pipes and everything. Then over top of it is a sign that mentions the fact that this is the home of African American community. And so I wrote know more about it because I got a feeling that she was just wrong. Just a feeling. Next. And this is Oella, where the majority of the people now live. These young ladies you see here, they are descendants of my wife. And it was at that time, they were doing something. You see those pipes in the background, those are, I think they're water pipes. You only see those pipes around when they're building a building or correcting something like, I don't know what, but anyway, you can see nothing else is built on either side. And that goes all the way up to, I can't think of the name of the street, but it was part of entrepreneurship of African Americans. Oh, next. And this is Susie Saunders. Oh, she's so nice. Oh, I wish Wisconsin was here. I know she knows it because she attends her church. And her ancestors definitely, they were free. They were Browns. I don't see that up there either. In the 1700s, and when I interviewed her, her cousin still lived in that house that I mentioned, has disappeared, and where the county, or it could be the Howard County, have a walking path over there. Their descendants' graves, which is wrong. I got a picture of it. But she was so nice. She's going now, Susie Saunders. Oh, she loved to talk about her descendants. I know because I got a very lengthy interview from her. And she sent me to uncle or someone that lived up in Oella that had information. And he likes to talk, so I interviewed him too. Next. And I'm not sure about who she is. I really wish I could come up to someone now to find out who she is. I just got a feeling, because that doesn't look like Miss Washington. And this lady here, she looks like her sister. Anyhow, these are people that occupied the homes built by their brother in this is wrong. No, that's right. That's right. This wasn't red. Next. This, I am not sure if it was taken during the slave period or not. I tried to get back to the lady who shared the picture with me. And I just don't remember. I did not write it down. I'm sure they are slaves, though. I really am sure. Because what they did with most of the areas that they cut out, almost every one of them became a swimming pool. Every one of them. Next. Now, this is our church. Cherry Hill African Union Methodist Protestant Church in Granite. Now, this church is owned by two people. All I know is that the lady said, I know her, she is a minister out of Catonsville. And she wanted to save her church so bad. Eventually, she said to me, Mr. Diggs, if you're in Linwood, because she was the last trustee of that building on file. She said, if you could just find some way to save this church, I will give the church to you. All I want is your promise that you would try. Now, you know that that's heavy. We might, Linwood had been doing this much longer than me. I don't know how long he'd been doing, but he was in the county. Darn if I didn't know. And of course, we were fortunate to have Richard with us, and Richard is a lawyer. In any case, when it was almost finished, I can't think of her name, she couldn't walk. And I was ready to get somebody from her family. Her sister lived next to her, and her sister's family was the one who would take her around. And we wanted to show her what we had done, which was quite a bit of work. And the poor woman died before we had a chance to get her up there. But she did, she signed it over to Richard and I. And of course, we both know well enough. Ain't a darn thing we can do with that building unless we have it designated historic. And that was a blessing because I was one of the commissioners on the Landmark Preservation Commission, LPC. And we were able to have it designated historic. Then thanks to Richard, we got it moving. And so today, it carries the basic, oh, there's the one up today. And we were able to save most of it. Since that door was facing the road during the very early periods, African Americans always had that type of door on the entrance of its building. That's why we put that door there. On the inside, we really didn't do much. We made it look like it did when we first walked in. And it did look like a sanctuary. There wasn't much in it. Just a piece of an organ, a pipe down the side to show a stove was there, and nothing else. I do, yeah, I have some of those books, but you have to stick around a bit. But anyhow, we made it look just like it would. But we have problems now. The daggone flooring, if you look at it, you can see that it's made out of rocks. And understandably, they ain't got access to nothing but rocks. So I have $100,000 to fix that. We just haven't done it yet. The one that's going to be in charge said he'd rather wait a little longer until the closer we get, to warm weather, and then we will use our funds to correct everything. Next. And this is the actual class of a little schoolhouse up from where the church is. And this is that teacher. And I hope I got it because it was converted to a private residence. And I want to show it to you. Next. Now, this is Marcella Chapel, very, very old church. They were Methodist. They had built chairs for slaves in a certain way. And when the quarries began to peter out, then the people were gone. It ended up with hardly anyone in the church. They then gave the church to their freed African Americans who stayed with the church. And of course, it went to time, took it. It's no longer there. And this is the area, if you remember a newspaper article 3-4 years ago, when Bethel Ame Church in Baltimore, they bought that property, was going to build their mega church there. They finally got, after much arguments from the community, much arguments, the county did what it was supposed to do. They approved it. They approved it for Bethel Ame Church. But it got so rough, church gave up and lost all their money. And Marcella Chapel is still there. Now, we had nothing to do with it, like being in ownership. I don't imagine. I have not seen any documents. I'm only gathering the information from the historian out in that area and people that I interviewed. All they know is that it was eventually demolished. Next. And this one is on Church Lane, or it was. That's the Union Bethel. I did mean to say Union Bethel Ame Church on Judeo Avenue. Anyhow, the community gave land to this group known as Union Bethel Ame Church, so they could build a church on, and a cemetery in the back. They have built that church, rebuilt it, I think 3 times. Of course, now they all settle up on Church Road with their new church, which is, can't think of the name of it. But this was original. This is about the 3rd time it was rebuilt. I think I got a couple older pictures of it. Next. Now this is just up the road, and there must have been quite a few blacks in there, because I found names of people, African Americans, in various census reports that were either come from, they said they come from slavery or Harrisonville. This is it when they had slave quarters in Harrisonville. Today, I was up there not too very long ago. You could see remnants of its aging there, but lots of it's been modernized, but you can see part of it. Now, since that is still in existence, I feel that based on what I have been doing, this area should be considered historic. We were slaves. We were slaves there. And that's just my feeling. That's one of the types of situations that I'm going to recommend be indicated as historic. Next. And this is a cemetery. People have no idea what's behind there. This is a cemetery. I had to do a lot of walking through the county to get some papers to indicate that this was a cemetery, and it is a black cemetery. Now what? Oh, okay. I've asked people to help me clear it to see if I could find anything of, to show it was a slave. And what I really gave out is when the maps show the little red flag, the little red cross over it that indicates cemetery. And it is a cemetery, and it should be so noted. People down the road at the Union Bethel, they don't even know that's a cemetery. Next. And this young lady here, she was white. She had 2 children at least, came from Randallstown area. They lived, praise God, for an awful long time. And they shared their history with me very, very well. And I truly appreciate it. And as a matter of fact, one that she made sure she signed that thing. She said, when we were little, the kids used to go under the bridge. There was a bridge down, a little small road, but not a large one. And they used to go on the side, always stay looking to see if any slaves were trying to come out of freedom. I mean, they were young enough not to realize that, you know, they'd stay there forever, they'd never see any, because, I mean, they were obviously very young not to realize it. But they put that in their memories, and they were so nice to let me know what it was like to have white parents. No, you know what? Now, I don't know. I hope I did. I hope it shows that she married a Black man. I hope. But looking at the granddaughter, I have a good picture of her granddaughter that she helped raise. She was obviously Black. And you could see things that might make you question, you know, hey, sweetie, are you white or Black? But enough to figure what it is. But I did get the correct information eventually. Next. And this again it was called, it was a school. It was a lodge called St. Thomas Lodge. And I know it was near that time when Baltimore County put public money into Black schools, because this place here was built right beside that Union Bethlehem Church that we just saw. And Mrs. The sister gave me a picture of her classroom on the 2nd floor that this lodge agreed to give for a classroom. Of course, now both of them are gone. And when I say early 1800s, whatever I meant was around, I know it was around the 1870s when the public education came in. Next. Oh, this is a picture of her classroom, the whole 2nd floor. Okay, now I was unable, yeah, I want to see that stove. Well, I mean, of course it's too late now. And this was all gone by the time I got to it. And there's 2 such places like this that were lodges that they used to turn over a room for schools. And this is up further north, up in I can't think of the name, but it's just like that. And I think they still have that stove. And we're trying to, we have some money for funding, and we want to buy these things that we need to make the places look like they did when they were created, or at least share the history of it. Next. And did we start with this? anyhow, so this is Scotch Level Road. Oh, that's a beautiful little enclave. That's another one that I'm going to ask to be designated historic. I thought that was the first one. Next. Oh, no. This is the Anthony Theater on Main Street in Turner Station. Of course, this is one of them that's landmarked, like with a school or a lodge or something. The significant thing about this is, and my research has been out for 2 years now. This theater was initially over on where the mill is. What's the name of where the mill was? I can't not get the name right. Anyhow, when they built the mill way back sometime in the 1800s or whatever, when they built it, they have also built quarters for their workers, because that was really way out in the hinterland. And as the mill grew, the homes for the workers diminished. And after I don't know how many years, they finally didn't have any more homes. African Americans had one heck of a time. Yes, Sparrow's Point. But that's all right. When y'all get to be 90 years old, you will understand why this old man is sitting here fumbling on things. I'm blessed that I'm able to get out what I got. But anyhow, they had nowhere to go. All Dundalk, North Lane, all of the little Black communities, they couldn't, there was no room for Blacks to be building no houses. They ain't gonna let them do that. They can forget it. They had to go to Baltimore. They ain't have no bus line. Not then, the number 26 didn't come in. It ended up with these people, African Americans, who worked or on their own and come to work or whatever. They knew they must find somewhere for their family to live. And this gentleman here, Dr. Joseph Thomas, the Blacks were so desperate that they found this little empty spot on Turner Station, and they squatted there. They actually put up tents. I was able to clarify that by a young lady who lived there with her father. She's gone now. She lived a long life, and she shared everything with me. She was born there. So anyhow, with that in mind, Dr. Thomas had gathered other men who decided they could help these people out on some place to live. And they approached Mr. Turner. And Mr. Turner, from what I read, needed money. His only source of income at that time was he sold guana down at the inner harbor and selling pigeon droppings as fertilizer wasn't making it. Dr. Thomas said to him, if you sell those spots where these African Americans have squatted, if they pay you for that land, would you sell it to them? He did. I don't know about no arguments with him. All I know is he agreed to sell the houses to the guy at what the market would pay. Dr. Thomas came back with his friends, and they formed the Tuxedo Savings and Loan Association and gave the money to those people that had actually built their homes. Right after that, they began to sell to anybody. thus the beginning of Turner Station. Obviously, he made a lot of money, but these blacks really found nice places to live. This is the only community in Baltimore County that I'm aware of that didn't start here. I mean, the whole community, nobody down there lived here. They took care of their own people. They had a big thing like Army Commissary and Army PX. Anything they wanted down Turner Station, they could get without coming into Baltimore. And eventually, as it grew and whatever became recognized by Baltimore County as their community. I mean, it's now everything. I'm sorry, for 2 years I've been researching on the Anthony Theater to find out if there are any other blacks who actually built, paid for. Everybody say go on Pennsylvania Avenue. Jews own every one of them things on Pennsylvania Avenue. A little bit that I found. That's significant. We don't want to lose that kind of history. As a matter of fact, I interviewed a man, a white man, who was a significant person. When I interviewed him, he told me, he said, when we were little and they built that Anthony Theater, I mean, everybody knew blacks couldn't go up to Dundalk, not to school, not to anything up there. And he said, why should we go up there and we walk just across the tracks and go into Anthony and get the same thing that you get up at Dundalk? That's what they thought about it. The actual, at some point in their lives, a group of men didn't care about segregation. They even went to the barbershop. This man said he used Miss Whitcomb's husband, the very strong activist, Courtney Speed. He used her husband. But we have put a bronze marker on that, praise the Lord. Next. This is the mother on the left, the mother of the boy I mentioned about putting a marker up. Eric Pulliam, that's his mother on the left. That's her sister, Arnadale, on the right. They're both my aunts. They're my mother's sister. And they have lived in Day Village down in Turner Station for an awful long time. And that's why, I mean, the boy was a hero. Anytime you go up in a gunship with a bunch of men, first time up, get blown out of the air. That's why I'm putting a marker on to remember how strong African Americans felt about their country during wartime. Eric Pulliam is his name. Okay, next. And this Dr. Patterson. Oh, I liked him. He's one who opened up. He cared about people. He really did. And he said he had as many whites as blacks that he cared for. He shared an awful lot. Awful lot. I think he's going there. I'm pretty sure he is. Next. And this is one of the quarters on J Street. J Street, J and I were the only two streets African Americans could live at. But they say the homes were gorgeous. They ain't pay much rent, which left them lots of money to spend, lots of money to send their children to school. Sound like a paradise to me. But unfortunately, they had to go. And it wasn't just a matter of time when all of them had to go. That's what you pay for all of this freedom. Next. And this is Mount Pleasant AME Church. This is in This is in near where I have my condo. I can't even think of that. No. I'm sorry, guys. I cannot think of where I live. Shucks. You would know the Owens Mills. I have a condo at Owens Mills, and eventually, since I have lost Elizabeth, I will be going back there. I have it just under a lease now, but I am eventually going back there. I did like that area. I like the growth. And Mount Pleasant AME Church has been back here a long time. Very large cemetery, extremely cooperative people. My wife Shirley and I went there for, I don't know how long we've been up there, 50 years, I guess. So, but that's one of the, and not too far from here, because I'm going to forget for sure. There's a church. I have to get to it next. I have to come back. My foot is going. Do you know what that's Owens Mill sitting right up on top? Next. Oh my goodness, this is the church I want to talk about. This church is in Campfield, it's AME. Look, it's built in 1844. People that I interviewed, I remember them saying their grandparents, I guess, or great-grandparents, attended that church and lived in that community. That wasn't there at that time. Yet it said it was built in 1844. But what happened to this church, I call this my mystery church. It was a little further back up the road in Campfield itself. They're down here now where you just a step away from getting on the subway or whatever it's called. I have spent an awful part of my time riding around that community. When they lost their church to a mortgage, they put them out. They eventually found some kind of way to have the church move to where it is now. And that's just a little further down on Walnut Avenue from Campfield. Why you say it? There's a mystery behind it. I never did find the cemetery. I've been all through there talking to kids riding their bikes and older people. Yeah, I get better luck from older people because they always feel like they're helping another old person with the work. Never found that. Now, I hate the idea to leave after all that, but they knew enough for me to write up a nice history on this, the fact they knew that the military had set their posts up at this church on Walnut Street. It's a nice church. It's just like the same standards of other Black churches. Okay, next. This gentleman here is a relative. My people come from Piney Grove. That's where his people come from. And my wife Shirley comes from the Brown family up in, way up. That's Caesar Brown. We are all related. It was so nice with Reverend Gwen. We went to his family cemetery. Oh, they kept it beautiful. And he provided so much information. He really collected a lot. And I truly appreciate him. Next. And Foots Hill. What is Foots Hill is just simply not an African-American community anymore. It was built in the early 1800s, and it took in all of the blacks up in the White Marsh area, all around that area. And they have a nice, well-kept, searchable cemetery with very few people that I found they could give me history on the church. I don't know if it was actually there in the slavery or after slavery. So a lot of this I'm still checking on, but I got a lot of history on it. Just some things that I just can't get now. And they have it nice. It's really a very nice church for where we take our tour guides. I mean, our tours too. I'm usually the guide. Next. And this is Sparks. And Sparks, I tell you what you find up in Sparks. You got to go out your way to get there. You have to turn off York Road, way up. Turn off where that area was called, where the slaves rebelled on their owners, ran away, got as far as Philadelphia. The family caught up with them. They did not take them all back. I forgot the name of the ride because they killed them. The slaves wanted their freedom and they killed them. It was right in that area. I think one of the old slave quarters is still standing up there. It was a few years ago. But anyhow, the blacks, they built the church, and the reason they called it Sparks, children all seem to remember all the sparks the train made when it came through the community. And they said that's why they called it Sparks. That was cute, I thought. But they've been in existence a really long time. People are very nice in sharing their history with me. I did not find anybody that came from slavery that I could interview, but they provided an awful lot of information. And that was really the thing that I was really out to get. And it was so interesting to find Black churches that still carry that bell. And that was one of them. Oh yeah, it's called a Christiana Ride, where the Black slaves rebelled on their owners. Oh, I know that's deep in the history. Okay, next. Cuba Road. And this is really the kind of churches that were built after the children got the right kind of places to have their classes, their rooms. You notice how long that building is? See 5 windows up the top. And you see that red door on the back of it? That's the bottom. I think school was held at the bottom and church service was held at the top. And extremely active church. When I say active, you see a lot of movement within these communities. Organizations have gathered to either complain about something or show their appreciation on something. But it would, that's only as time goes by. And this is one of those churches that, and if you go to Towson, like most people go out to the shopping, once you come off of 83, right at the sign that says turn right to Towson, you be on the left side, so you make a left turn to Cuba. And I think you go up to the first signal light, I think it's the first. And if you turn right, you are then just not far out. you can't miss seeing that church because it's right in the line of sight of the road. And there's a parking lot behind it. And the homes to me look more like the homes that a person will make a decent salary than one that's struggling, just trying to find decent homes, for their families. But I've seen movement, good movement in most of these homes as I go through them. Next. And this is St. Luke's United Methodist Church up in Hereford. And that's a long way up, really. You can see 1865 after the church bought the property. And that is to St. Luke's United Methodist Church. But in 1865, they built a one-room schoolhouse that's gone, not gone, but gone for use as a school. It's been converted to a home. And the thing about this church is when I talk with them, seeking them, only just old, very old people, older than me, and their complaint to me was, we don't have any young people to help us on anything. And it's very difficult. But there is a white group that uses that church as a meeting place. And they do help her, the older people, they help her to keep the church up. Next, big cemetery in the back. And this is Edgemere. And sounds like the Edgemere where we have up in, where did I say it was? I thought sure it was been there longer than 1898. I've seen that church's name so many places, but that is the church. And somewhere I have images of it because that's the area that Shirley's people come from. Good history. Next. Now, this is really, really, truly significant. This is the first ever that Baltimore County allowed this to be published. The makeup of a community, which is called not Cherry Heights, but Overly. They advertise. You can buy spots. It's all done. People, I would say in the mid-range, maybe even a little further up, that bought the houses. Some that wanted to get there early, they had their own ones designed, but the later ones, some were built and sold after the community was developed. But this is the only one ever where they have advertised, openly advertised. They never done that in Catonsville. They never done that anywhere, not in this county. As a matter of fact, let me tell you something that was significant. I was interviewing a lady whose father was deeply involved, an activist in this community. And he bought a house that was up. And I interviewed the daughter. She was older than I. And when she took me around the house, showing me how much she liked it. And then this little special room that she liked, she said, when it gets real hot in the wintertime, in the summertime, I don't have to go upstairs that much. And she uncovered this hole that they cut through with a hammer where the water was flowing, actual water, cold water, it was sweet. I don't think they would ever sold that to a white person, but there it was. And she was really, really happy about it. I don't know why I can't call her name. I'm shocked that I remember as many names as I have been citing. Next. And this one, Goodwood Hyde Park. Let's see, this is another one. It's in Back River. And houses are way far apart. It's not a tight community. Church hasn't been there long. I don't think I even interviewed anyone in the community about the history of that church. For one thing, I'm getting near the end of, and I was just outright tired of going around anymore, but there are people have been there for generations and generations. The main churches, I don't even know where I am now, up so far. Okay, next. And this is what happens to the schools that were in pretty good shape. And they actually, this really wasn't, it was first a senior center. This was after the integration. And then it became a school, and it just stayed a community center, very well kept up. Lots of people, older people in there that you could interview or find things. Next. This is one that was built during the slave era, Chase. I don't know why, but it was a school, and I mean, you know, they had a school in there. Right dead behind them is are the railroad tracks, and there's a smaller church above them, Baptist Church, Shining Starr Baptist Church. The history wasn't really long, and I did interview people from the church in Chase that lived and sometimes went to Shining Starr, but I got enough information from them, and they also they lost that. But so many people, really, they just are leaving, just like they were trying to come here to get a taste of the county. Next. Don't know much at all about here either. I did speak to the pastor, I think, but they ended up on being on North Lane. But I don't have any serious real history from them. Next. And Back River Lake Brothers down in X. St. Stephen, St. Stephen's Ame Church was a very, very popular one for years. Good history. The pastor down there, I think he had a group that kept their history going. Like I said, we're wading off now, and everything is pretty well spread apart. And you can see how nice that church is. It's very large in capacity too. Next. Now, this one has changed since I put this up here. This, first of all, the community that it's sitting in carried the designation of Bradshaw for many a year. Lately, its name has been changed to Brownstown. And one of the reasons for the change is, and the people that come from this community, and this was a lodge and a school, it's still there. When I took the picture, this picture of it, it was too close to the school, but the person that owned the land around the church, they did not own much of the land. They gave them a little extra land and moved the church over to the left more and way off the road. That was very nice of them to do that. Now, the brothers and sisters, it's 3 lodges together. One is in Harford County, no, 2, and one of them is here. That's the one that's here. Marvelous history. They taught the school on the 1st floor. On the 2nd floor, they had their lodge. They impacted significantly on the community because they were so far apart. And when they needed help, it was so far to go to help them. The church, however, Ashbury United Methodist Church, I hope I got that up there because that's another extremely old church. You know, the church was their meeting place and everything until they got going. And one of the mother's relative of Shirley was one of the teachers there. And I know we got them, we helped them to get a grant because I saw that really going down. And we got them a grant. And interior is getting pretty well fixed up. But all I can say about this little church is they're still there. Next, I hope the 3 are together. Now, this is up even further, Long Green. And Long Green and Mount Zion, they were extremely old. All of them were living very close to the line for the county. And I really did get some nice interviews from there. And it showed in those interviews how well or what that community meant to an awful lot of people and why they are so determined that they're not going to have anything changed up there, which I don't blame them. Matter of fact, you can see where it says clergy, then right behind it is where people can park. And there is another, that may be Mount Zion, but one of them gave the church, they abandoned a church and gave the abandoned church to Long Green. I know they got money because they were at the session. I did sessions with Maryland, MIH, Maryland, what's Robbie, MIH, I can't think of his name, Maryland Historic Trust. I've had more than one lesson up there on how to save your homes, how to make them historic. And some of these people are still using funding. And that was in 2012. People don't realize those grants, they last forever. You know, you get maybe, Is that Anne? Oh, what's her name up there? I don't know. But anyhow, very, very significant place. Next. And yeah, this is weird. This community is called Laurely. If you are going up towards Philadelphia, what's the road? The Governor Ritchie Highway. You got to go way, way up past Jarrettsville and all. And there's a little sign that says, turn left for Laurely. And you turn left for Laurely, and typically you go around the backside of everybody's house. And in the back is this little community of Laurely. And you can see what it's like. It's not an awful lot of places. But they were on the other side of the road. Everybody don't have a car. Everybody don't have a car. You want to go to church, you got to walk across that road if you ain't got no car. And who knows what happened? Because the church is the same one that took care of the one that was saying was the name of the little building I just saw. But anyhow, these people, they survived. They've been around here at least in the 70s. And the history that these people provided me is in my book. I mean, it was like they were on the island, didn't care. It was like Turner Station. We're okay in our community. And since the school closed down, gave them room for people like myself, old seniors, and it's not a bad looking community. But the book has a lot more, but it is there, but it is really out of sight. If somebody don't tell you to turn off there, which ain't nothing there but the back of houses, might be difficult. If you get to the next turnoff is for Jarrettsville, you get there, you know you're going too far. Next. Now, this is another place. It's beyond my understanding. I know where it is, in Bear Hills. In Bear Hills, so you give you an idea where it is. Does everybody know where Northern Parkway is? Everybody ever heard of it? Anybody heard of like going to Morgan College? What's the name of that street road? Goes a long way to get. You got to go there to get to Morgan. Anyhow, from there, when you go up the hill, and you cannot miss this big water tower. That's where I was born. Cold Spring Lane, yes, thank you. Cold Spring Lane, take you right through Morgan. Well, when you get to Cold Spring Lane and Falls Road, I mean, there's big signs there that send you in two different areas. Falls Road, if you turn left and go maybe a couple of miles, you will go into Bear Hills. Large Black community, quite a few homes, and it's on the left side of that. I don't know the exact street number, but people that live that far up own this church here in Ruxton. And honestly, that's quite a distance between here and the community. The community, though, Bear Hills, that's really old, really, really old. I forget the name of the man, came down, started a community, had funding, built a lot around Bear Hills. My last involvement with them was to try to help them believe it was to get on the National Register, or something like that. And that's when I found out how the complicated history of this church. This is, you're almost in Towson going up. Let's say if you come off of the Beltway, so you're coming off and you're going on the right side. And when you come off, if you go all the way over to the left side at the next signal, turn left at that signal, then you're in Towson. If you turn right at that signal, come down, I don't know how far, not far, you will run on the right side. You can't miss it because it's this beautiful little building and a large cemetery. It took me a long time to get the okay to get a bus in there. And it was, I've only taken that one because it's much too complicated. And I was afraid people would hurt themselves. But like I say, built in the 1830s. Now, on their main structure there in Towson, they also have a church. But the church obviously became unusable because they tore it down. And when they tore the church down, then they had really no church to have service in. I mean, no, the bigger church. This church here is so tiny, it ain't funny, but they do have functions there every now and then. But I've captured that history pretty good. But why up in Bear Hills themselves, they have the cemetery. I have pictures of the young lady who coordinated the trip for me. Brush over some of the headstones where they are made in the ground, put in the ground. They didn't have any with headstones, but you could read if you brush them away. They keep it at least mowed. You can get the names of the people that's laid to rest there. But the people themselves did not stay there. Most of the homes were so dilapidated, it just wasn't funny. I think they're working on it now, trying to get it up for some reason. I forgot. They sent me something not too long ago, but if ever you want to take a nice tour and see how a cemetery should look like, visit this place. Like I said, I would guess we won't change. I'm still one of the commissioners on Baltimore County Tourism Commission. That's how I can get buses and don't charge people. So if you keep an eye on Diggs Johnson Museum events, you might see some because we got an awful lot to make up. It's been so long with this COVID thing. And I myself stopped a lot only because a couple of us are really up in age. And I was for chilling out and just planning for whenever it expires, the COVID. But anyhow, let me get to the next picture. I know I'm near the end. Next, this is the building is new. The building is new, but it's been there well over 100 years. And there's a large population in the Essex area. This part is where Blacks go to live if they want to work at the mill. Of course, the mill ain't there no more. It's something altogether different. But that's where a lot of Blacks live. And there is a school on Hopewell Avenue. And it did please me in a way to find that at least the religious side of resources for African Americans to attend churches of their choice It seems like the county has always done it, have always made sure that the resources are, were there. My books will show it. But they were still slaves, badly treated after slavery. But here lately, you see they're moving pretty good. Next slide. Hey, I'm finished.
That was it.
I am finished. Jamie, that was much longer than I thought it would be.
Well, it was all great information. I know for me, the takeaway was that there's just, that there are so many communities all over the whole county that have always been there, that have been there for so long.
Oh,
And
long
more than I think
time.
everyone realizes sometimes.
Yeah.
So we do appreciate everybody. We did obviously run longer than we thought, but I think we were all having a great time with all that. And if anybody does still have any questions, I know Mr. Kitterman had a question quite a long time ago. I apologize. Probably should have let you ask it then. Let's see if there was anyone else who had one that we didn't kind of get to eventually. I think that was about St. Mark's and Winters Lane. Oh, he asked if the Black community ever tried to use the school before the church took possession.
What
St.
St.
Mark's
Mark,
and Winters Lane.
you know what? St. Mark's was not right. It wasn't right. All of the resources that church had, I have found this record in the archives. When the what was it, community people in the church, I don't remember the reason they left, but when that was available and the Blacks tried to get it, I read it myself. It said, we can't have too many Black children running around downtown. Now that I saw it, maybe it's a different wording. I read that when that building became available. And it wasn't long after that when they built the church down on Emerson Avenue. I tell you, some things, you can't go back and change them. At least one thing, and I have to admit this about my feelings toward Baltimore County, still I've actually read and heard with my own ears of things that they did, what resources that they had there. They never really took, they didn't give too many resources, but they were there. They were there. Most people that I talk with, they seemed like they were comfortable, having lived there all their lives. And, after they got married and got old children, well, of course, they wanted to stay there then because resources are there. Even if you want now, you can get, I know I'm a veteran. And if I say I need help, I will get help. Ain't no doubt, I don't care whether I'm Black, green, I only got 4 teeth in my head. They will help you here. And every time I read these, how they are helped, especially through active organizations that are concerned about their neighbors in their way of helping the churches. I'm real pleased with it myself.
Did anyone else have any questions they'd like to unmute or come in with?
Well, look, you guys got to forgive me on my memory. I was shocked, JB, that I could actually remember as many names and things that I know I would have forgotten.
There's an awful lot in there, and you got a lot of it out. I certainly enjoyed it.
Well, this didn't go the way that we planned.
Not quite, but but I think we all had a great time with it, and I wanted to thank everybody else who's left still for coming, and for those who joined or renewed their memberships, those who made donations. We're going to be sending those over to the Diggs Johnson Museum. So we do appreciate everyone's support and coming, and we'll see you again on another day. Have a good afternoon.
Everybody take care and see you, Judy. I see she's still up there.
Yeah.
Bye.
Oh, there you are. Oh, Judy. Look, I'm going to contact you on one of my tours.
Okay.
One of them, some of them you might really like.
Enjoyed it. Thank
That's
you.
one that got me started. Yes, you are. Oh, I've enjoyed this. Jamie, I really thank you for getting this together like
Thank
that.
you.
And I like it going just off the cuff. I mean, all they do is people got to look at me and see this old man. I ain't expected him to remember everything he did for 100 years. Oh, but this was good. I really enjoyed it. Some of the questions were great. Maybe not as many, but we went off a long time. I didn't plan to go this long. But we got to do this again, Jamie.
Yep.
Because I'm hoping eventually to eventually come back under you if you still got space.